Hey guys, welcome back to the Girlfriends and Goals podcast YouTube channel. My name is Samaria and I'm joined by my best friend and co-host Miyosha. And today we're reviewing Married at First Sight, season 17, episode 6. But before we get into that, please make sure you are subscribed to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and meet us in the comments to let us know what you thought about this episode. And shout out to y'all in the comments because we put the wrong episode number on the last video. And so it was like, I think y'all did this one already. So we really appreciate y'all. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, you want to jump into Becca and Austin? I didn't have too much this episode.
No, I didn't. All seems to be going well. Nothing's really changed. But I did want to hear your thoughts on when they were sitting on the hammock
Hmm.
and he was like, "Oh, I didn't want to brag too much or make it seem
Yeah,
like we're doing better than what we are because I didn't want them to feel bad." And she was like, "Well, what does what they have going on have to do with
right.
how good we're doing?"
We're doing. Yeah, like now you're gonna make me feel bad because I can understand it making her question, like, okay, why do you care so much what other people think, especially when it's like a positive thing that we have going?
That and these you just met these people, you don't really know them. It's not a close friend group and you're all adults. So
Hmm.
I think you'd have to go into this process knowing we're all going to progress at different rates. Now, I will say I could understand his point to a point, meaning you don't want to maybe be that couple where it's like, oh, my man, my man, my man.
We're fantastic.
Yeah, everything is so good. And you're hearing about other people going through tough times and you're using that time to talk
Right.
about how great you're doing. So I get what he's saying, but
Yeah.
in this instance, they see y'all cuddled up, they see you seeming to enjoy each other's company. Well, at what point does it end? So are you going to pull back on physical affection in front of them so that they
Mhm.
don't feel bad?
Yeah,
Austin,
absolutely.
I
So
don't know.
I wasn't feeling that. I don't know what his relationship history is. I wonder if he yeah, I would want to know about his relationship background a little bit. Like why is that something he feels like he needs to do? And I hope he stops doing that. What I had on them though is like later on in the episode, he said something like, well, she was trying to talk about something more serious and he kind
Hmm.
of brushed past it. Like, oh, we can talk about that later. And it was something that she mentioned during girl time too. Like, I'm a person who wants to get it all out there so that everybody knows what they're expecting, but he doesn't want to get too serious yet.
He
And so
he
I was
wants to stay in that playful, jovial,
yeah,
everything is good, let's enjoy the honeymoon. Once again, I understand that to a point.
yeah.
I think you have to find the right balance, especially in a process like this where you don't have a whole lot of time. You are
Hmm.
marrying a stranger. And I get her point. Okay, that's fine that we're laughing and we're being goofballs all
Hmm.
the time, but we're in the real world. We're adults. We have real world problems.
Yeah,
So when are we going to have some deeper conversations? I don't know if politics and religion is the first things you want to jump to, like things that can be very polarizing. But
hmm,
I do think that they could stand to dig a little bit deeper.
just a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm like her. I would want to have the deeper conversations. I honestly, I'm probably the person who wants to have the deeper conversations too soon.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you
And
don't
I'm
have to be like, girl, pull back a little, but I definitely think things need to be said as soon as possible so we can figure out if we're wasting each other's time or not.
that, and I'm also the person where I don't know, you know how some people be like, oh, well, because we're on vacation or we only have this limited amount of time. So you don't want to
Mhm.
maybe talk about hard things. But
Yeah.
for me, if it's in my head, I wanna talk about it. I don't care if we're
Yeah.
on vacation. I'm not waiting 2 months from now, a week from now. It's probably going to affect my energy in that
Absolutely.
moment, and so,
Yeah.
I don't know, I understand not wanting to be too heavy, but
Hmm.
I'm just not the person where I could pretend if something's on my heart. Like, if it needs to get out, let's just get it out. Let's just dig
Exactly.
in there.
But yeah, that was all that I had on them. That he's too concerned about what the other couples think. Period. But
And
you do you
mm,
feel like some of that is based off of how other couples have reacted or things that they've said. Because remember,
Mm.
Cameron, when they first got to the honeymoon, he was like, "Oh, I'm a little jealous of Becca and Austin." So I wonder if there have been comments made that are making him feel like I can't fully express how much I'm enjoying myself. Some people think he's not as
Mm.
into her as she is into him. So,
I'm leaning more towards that, where he
okay.
didn't want to do too much as far as
Hmm.
bragging because he's like, we're still very early. I don't want to overcommit. I'm kind
Mhm.
of coasting and enjoying it. That's what I got. I could see where she may be more in. But then again, like she said, they haven't dug deep. So she may not be as
As
in
in,
as he is. She may just be enjoying it. There's something to her that's like, no, before I can even fully commit, we need to get to the harder conversations. And
get to
even she said, I think with the girls, like, hey, like this could all fall apart. Like this is very early. So she doesn't seem too green either.
yeah, I agree. I agree. All right, Emily and Brennan.
Yes.
Somebody was like,
Another
"Y'all be too hard on my favorite couple." like, like,
what, Becca
okay,
and Austin?
they no, Emily and Brennan.
Oh, I think we envisioned them as the problem couple on the honeymoon.
Hmm, okay, yeah.
I think based off of her energy at the bachelorette, some of the stuff she was saying at the wedding,
Mm.
we had low expectations of Emily, I think, going into the honeymoon. And she's actually proven to be pretty unproblematic, other
Yeah,
than her dreads.
and she's and I think she's adapting to him. Like, I love that she was
Mhm.
saying, "Well, I haven't done this before, so I'm really just trying to learn." And I think that's really good for her to approach it in that way. Is she gonna approach it that way when they get home? I don't know, but I did appreciate that about her this episode. I liked
Yeah.
them this episode. So,
Yeah, she seems like she's adjusting her energy down a bit so that she
mm,
isn't too much. But how long can you keep that up?
before you're like, okay, I need you to speed this up.
Yeah. So the big topic was her hand and the hair.
Well, I do want to
Oh,
say something nice.
okay.
Okay,
Mhm.
so when they were doing the water activity, I forget what it's called, the foot standing on the
Flyboarding?
water, the Jesus
Flyboarding?
moment where they be
Yeah.
walking on the water. Yeah, I don't know what it's called. But when he hugged her before she went out and he was like, "Good luck." And then when she was out there, he was cheering her on. And then when she came back, he hugged her again, gave her a little kiss, and was like, "I'm proud of you." I appreciated that. I thought those were really cute moments. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. Yeah, so the one thing I wanted to talk about is her being pretty injured and still being very active on this honeymoon. A
Yeah.
reoccurring theme was, "Oh, yeah, my hand, but, I'm just gonna push through," or "You're a tough cookie." There was
Mhm.
a lot of affirmation of her being able to push through even though she's clearly pretty hurt.
Her hand
He
looked swollen.
he doesn't seem to be as concerned about it. I don't know, for me, maybe it's just the scenes that we're seeing. It's like he wants to push through and still do these activities as well. I don't know.
But they don't know each. I don't know. If she's like, "Oh, I'm here for it. I'm down. I'm down. I'm
Yeah,
down." As a
maybe
as
that's
a
it.
person who doesn't know her, yeah, like I can see him being like, "Oh wow, she's such a trooper," and even admiring that about her. Like, okay, her hand hurts, but she still wants to do enjoyable things. Like,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I want her to stop saying dreads because her hair is matted up. I think enough with the dreads, Emily. And I want to know how her hair got that bad because maybe she's never had a sew-in before, or maybe, or like, I don't know. How did her
I
hair get that matted? She must not
I
have had care for it.
Yeah, so either she had like micro links or some type of adhesive was
Hmm.
inside of her hair, and when it got wet, dried, if you keep it in a ponytail, it just intertwines.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then if you don't detangle it like immediately, it just gets worse and worse. And the more you pull at it, I was horrified for her when he started cutting.
She said he didn't even bring scissors, so those were her eyelash scissors or something like that
Well,
that she gave him. So they were
my whole
dull.
thing is I didn't see him try to lather it up to even attempt.
He went in
I'm like, whoa,
dry.
whoa, 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 whoa. See, with me, you would have had to try. You're not just going to come in with this. I know this is going to take time. I will pay you the money. I
Yeah.
was horrified. I could not believe that.
They have no conditioner or nothing.
Not a rat tail comb, nothing.
And this is the professional? Where'd you find
No,
it?
to me, she handled that very well.
A little too well.
I'm
Honestly,
like,
this is your
girl,
hair.
you left with 40% less hair in one spot. What is that?
You quantified it 40%.
Girl, did you see that hairball? The trip would have been over.
I would have been so, and she no, she was like, oh, yeah, it's definitely shorter. Oh, well, girl, I would have flipped. I wouldn't care that
Child,
I just married this
I
man.
would be so traumatized. It would be a hard ass to get me back in Cancun again. Like,
Put me on the plane right now. Honestly, Brenda, honeymoon is over.
and
Let's
if
go.
you're my partner, I'm gonna need you to be watching attentively. Not that he would have even been given direction, but like could have said to her, like, hey, this is what he's doing, da 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 da. But I don't know if the person, the hairstylist spoke English. That was
He
a fool.
didn't.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he didn't. I don't know.
Ooh.
That was just really hard to watch. I said, why did I write that professional was tearing her head up?
He was going in with the little scissors.
Oh my gosh.
Oh Lord. Yeah, she definitely took that.
Sorry, the way he handed it to her. So it's just replaying in my head. He was just like,
Oh my gosh.
okay.
Oh.
Enough with that. But Britain said that okay, so they bonded over him being patient over her hair, which I think was really nice of her to make that point, because I think sometimes people who don't have like the hair experiences, they might be
Mhm,
like, oh, you're overreacting, it's not that deep
mhm,
or whatever. So I think, he was very patient with that, and I appreciated her for being a good sport with it as well. Yeah,
mhm.
they're doing very well on this honeymoon with adapting. I don't love that he was like, well, yeah, you're slowly earning my trust. I get that he's guarded, but yeah, it just made it seem like it would be a game to get her to fully earn the trust. Like he has a point system or something like that.
Yeah, I think some things are better left unsaid. I think we all operate that way
Mm.
to a certain extent. So I think it's just kind of understood. I don't know if you need to communicate to her, like, oh yeah, but you're not in the
You're not
circle
in the
yet.
circle. Yeah, like,
Like,
okay,
okay,
thanks.
I just met you. You ain't in mine either.
Right. Okay, that's all that I had on them, but I do want to reiterate, I did like them this episode. So
Yeah, I think that they're doing much better than we predicted.
expected.
So,
Now when they get back home, I don't expect much, but
mhm.
they've been great. All
Yeah.
right. Claire and
Okay.
Cameron.
Oh gosh.
As
Okay.
soon as the episode started, I was like, here she goes, criticizing him for his short swim trunks. I don't even think she knows it. People who complain a lot sometimes don't
Mhm.
even, like, it's just a
Mm-mm.
part of their their being that they don't realize it. But the episode hadn't even started good. And
It's
here he was
exhausting.
like, yeah, your swim trunks were really short. And he's like, oh, I thought you liked them like that.
I mean, he's tall, so a lot of stuff is
Stuff
gonna
is gonna
fit
be
him
short on
short.
him. Just like when you're short, everything's gonna be long on you. Like,
Yeah.
girl, it's okay.
Mhm.
They're very confusing for me though. Like, so not only is she a bit condescending,
Mm.
I think, but she was like, she's not sure he has romantic feelings, and that's like confusing the relationship.
Hmm. I I think I kind of agree with what he said. I think they were I don't know if they were on the boat or if they were on the in the bathtub, but he was saying that he realizes that I guess she is a good communicator,
Yeah.
but she's not explaining what she needs from him well.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
saw that throughout this episode.
Yeah. He said she's good at communicating how she feels, but
Right.
not what she expects from him.
Right.
Solid.
And I think at least I saw in this episode to where he's trying,
Hmm.
but I don't know. Like she keeps saying that she's looking for him to do more, I think, to
Mm.
give her direction. But I do think her seriousness can come off as guardedness as well. And so I could see how he is like, oh, do I go? Do I?
It's like playing double dutch. Like, I don't know. When
He's
do I?
damned if he does or if he doesn't. So
Absolutely.
I completely agree with what he said.
So I was glad that they were able to have some fun though. At first, I wasn't sure I was gonna go because when he told her that she couldn't splash on his canvas, and then she
Mhm.
did it, I was like, "Oh Lord, what is about to happen?" But he took it, and then they ended up having the. So I enjoyed seeing that part of them, and I'm like, okay, maybe we're getting somewhere because it's been so
Mhm.
structured and serious and
So with their scenes, I feel like I'm on eggshells. I feel like it could go left at any second. Where I'm just like
yes,
waiting, like, okay, what's gonna come next?
that's how.
Even the scene later when they were on the bus, and I'm like, girl, you getting too agitated for no reason.
Oh, when he moved?
Yeah. And so I just feel like if I'm sensing that I'm on eggshells while watching their scenes,
Imagine what they're feeling. Hmm.
mm-mm,
What did you think about the bus thing? I think I I liked that when he did come back, she explained like, "Oh no, you could have just leaned on me." Like I like that she gave the permission because he does not know, like you said, he does not
mm,
know what to do or how to be around her. So
mm-mm,
I appreciated that she gave him that permission, like, "Oh, you could have leaned." Like when he's like, "Oh, I would have had to lean all the way back this way," and she's like,
mhm,
"Yeah, you could have," you know. And I think he
mhm.
needs that based on how they started out. He needs a green light for
Yeah, to
everything.
know that it's okay to touch you and you not be all, you know.
Girl, when he had his arm around her and she just was like a statue, a statue. I'm like, girl, you got lean in a little bit, girl. She needs an intimacy coach.
Yeah, so I don't know, and I'll ask you, do you think that her level of physical touch that she wants to have with him is also like bigger? It's a separate issue than them
Who?
because of what she said when she was with the girls
Mm-hmm.
about how in her previous relationships, maybe she didn't get a lot of physical touch or
Yeah.
affection. Maybe they weren't willing to claim her out in public, or there
Mhm.
was something there. But she's just so tense. And
Yeah.
even the girls are just like, well, touch him, give him a hug, like do
Yeah.
something. So I don't know. I think it could be two separate things going on that are connected, of course,
Right, right, right. Because how she is in general is affecting how she can be with him.
and her past
Yeah, yeah,
too.
yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm not like a huge physical touch person, so I can relate to the awkwardness. Maybe not to that extent, but I'm
Mhm.
trying really hard to like relate to that. And a lot of it is just her as a person. So
Mhm.
she has to learn. It's a learning experience for her, I think. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that she started to take their advice throughout the episode. Like you saw, the cameraman was like, "Y'all gonna get this hand on his leg." He was like, "Let me zoom in right quick, right?" It was all under the table just to get that shot. Like, okay, we see it. She put her head on his leg. But I think she needed that girl talk. And I
Mhm.
appreciate the women this season and the advice that they're giving, the support that they're giving. I think they're supporting not just their friend, but they're supporting the relationship. And that's really sweet to see.
Yeah, because I could see from his perspective, especially marrying a stranger,
Yeah.
I could interpret that as like, "Oh, well, you don't like me, you don't want me." And not that he maybe expects her to be all over him, but she's just so tense.
Mm-hmm.
I would read that as you're not into me
Interested. Yeah.
or interested. And so I'd be like, "Oh, okay, well, Imma
Yeah.
leave you where you at."
I think it was great that she apologized though for not recognizing his efforts. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, because she has presented as a very tense person. I think the apology definitely softened the atmosphere a little bit. So
And he took
I,
some accountability as well. He says he realizes that he's not the best communicator, but I felt later in the episode he was being pretty open.
mm, yeah,
Mm,
absolutely.
yeah.
Um, Before we go to Lauren and Ryan, is there anything from the girl time or guy time that you want to chime in with? I feel like most of my notes about the girl time and guy time was on Claire and Cameron and the stuff that we
Mhm.
just said.
Okay.
So
Oh, something that Emily said in the girl
Mhm.
time, she said she's maybe trying to seek out a problem because she doesn't know what's normal.
And you know what? I don't think that's what it is. I think she feels I don't want to go from saying positive
So,
relax. I don't want to go from saying positive things about them to negative, but maybe that's her intuition saying something is like off and she needs to lean into that. As someone who is in her like later 20s, that's a
mhm,
lesson that I learned, right? During these years is maybe your intuition is trying to communicate something to you and ignoring it might not be best. So I love that she's at least probing at that instinct that she has.
mhm.
But I don't think she's trying to find something wrong. I think maybe there's just
She's
an
sensing it.
uneasiness. Yeah. And I don't know
Yeah.
what it is, but this is just me like, okay, what is her intuition communicating?
Yeah, I'm still leaning on the same energy I was with last week's episode. I
Hmm,
think that they're in a good place. I just don't know how into her he is. And she
okay.
may be sensing that as well. And this is a different situation for her. She's used to being physical very fast.
Hmm.
She may be wondering, like, okay, well, what do I fill the space with if we're not on that level yet?
That's true. That's
So,
very true.
but yes, I had that. And then we already talked about Becca, Claire
Yeah.
Cameron, the guys. Oh, with the guy time, Orion.
Yeah.
What did you think about he's just like everything is Gucci
I
over
have a
here,
lot of
baby.
notes on this, so I'm glad you asked. I said he didn't share as much as she did, and I get that. I think he might not feel safe expressing what their conversation was about, especially with like Cameron's comment previously. I don't know that the guys represent a safe space for him to talk about cultural differences
Mhm.
in the same way that the women might be for Lauren.
Mhm.
So
I
yeah,
could see that. Yeah. And
I thought
him
it was
just
interesting.
not wanting to yeah, that the whole thing is just messy.
You know what struck me though? I was saying that I wonder how he's going to feel about Lauren sharing as much as she did. Because we've seen time and time again in real life, as well as on this show, the women are going to say things to their men about the other couples. Like they're going to say, oh, yeah, the girl said this. Like, remember last season when Shaq was like, yeah, Aries isn't really into Jasmine like that. The couples are going to talk about each other to their spouses.
Mhm.
And so it's going to get around to their men anyway. And I just hope that that's okay for Orion.
I think for him to expect that she won't open up would be naive.
Oh, yeah.
Even just the way she comes across as a talker. I mean,
As
she
very
doesn't
open.
very open, she's not guarded, so, ah, it would be on brand with what she's presented by her being so open. I wouldn't have
Anything
expected
he
her.
can expect, it's that.
Yeah, I think that would be naive of him to expect that she wouldn't
Yeah.
be open, and women, we're just typically talkers more about our feelings,
Yeah.
so,
Especially with our girls.
especially if you're going through the same process together,
Mhm.
so.
And they had so many like moments of vulnerability with each other, like not Emily, Becca saying, just because we're being physical, that doesn't mean we're gonna last longer. Like we could
Mhm,
this whole thing could blow up in a few days and it not be
mhm,
anything. And Emily, like they had a very vulnerable space. And it's weird when everybody else is sharing and you're not sharing. So I could see
yeah,
stuff will come up. All
but
right.
yeah, that was all I had with the guys' time,
Okay. All right. So Lauren and Orion. So we see them working through what had happened previously.
Mhm,
And I appreciated Lauren taking more accountability,
she did.
accepting that she was responsible. She owned that. Like she should teach a class in how to own your ignorance
Mhm,
because she definitely did. So I do want to applaud her for that. or I said something about, well, I'm ready to open a narrative with Laura. I was like, what does that even mean? What is
Maybe
open?
open up dialogue. Maybe he just used the wrong word.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. I was like, okay,
That's what I took it as. I could be wrong. I filled in that word.
okay, yeah,
I took it as open up dialogue. I don't know why he said narrative.
yeah.
Because a narrative is something you would create.
I don't know,
Hmm.
but I was just like, oh, I wonder where this episode is going to go. Like, I wonder what he means by
Mm.
that, or what that means for him, and how that's going to impact how he relates to her. And she said that she slept outside of the room and came back in the morning.
But before he would know.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Like part of me is thinking, okay, this is early on.
Hmm.
Like if you just I don't know, it seems a bit much because what was the point of coming back before he woke up? So he wouldn't know. It seems like you're hiding the fact that you needed space. She said because she didn't want him to know. So she comes back at 5 a.m. Why?
I'm wondering when she left. Like, girl, how did this go?
So
But
you left from midnight, say, till
but
5 a.m.? I don't
she
know.
was probably like stressing because she was in the wrong. Like, when you're the
Mm,
wrong party and you're as genuine as she seems to be, it
mm-hmm,
probably did really mess with her. And she said in the episode, like, when I am wrong, I'm very hard on myself. So
mm,
she's probably feeling restless and just needed
yeah.
that time. So maybe that's her process.
Yeah. He said there's a lot of things that he doesn't move on from. He claimed to not be upset, but he
Mm,
needed to get his words together so he wouldn't say something hurtful. So you
mm.
were upset.
And that's
You're so
okay.
confusing.
And that's okay to be upset because that was upsetting. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So when he said that there are a lot of things he doesn't move on from, I think we all can agree that we have things that we may not move on from. But I wrote, I'm like, I wonder if he's like, I'm gonna dig my heels in. I have a stubborn spirit about me. So I don't know, especially given his reaction later in the episode.
That I can't
So
wait to get to that. Okay. So she said, I put him in a situation where, and he had to give me a lesson. And as a minority, it's like adding insult to injury. I really like Lauren. I do. And she talked about wanting him to feel safe and valued at home, especially with like all the stuff that he probably has encountered outside of the home. Like, this woman is just chef's kiss, in my opinion. But
mm,
yeah. But
yeah.
yeah, I think it's hard for them because they're dealing with something that's really difficult so early on. And I think they navigated it really well.
What did you think about her saying she was happy that it happened on the honeymoon?
I think I would have phrased it different. Like, I know what she meant, but
Mm,
I don't think I would have said those words specifically.
yeah.
I think what she's saying is like, she was saying, okay, we're in a place where it's hard to stay upset with each other because we're on this honeymoon. We're in a place where we can't just get up and leave. So we have to confront the
Mhm.
issues. And it's something that it's a hard conversation that we're getting out of the way sooner rather than later. So
Yeah.
maybe those are the things. I think not that she would have wanted it to happen, but
Mhm.
the fact that it happened when it did, in the setting that it did, at the timeline in the relationship that it did, I think she's looking at the silver lining, the benefits of it having happened at the time that it did.
Mm,
Yeah, so that's what I
yeah.
think. But I wouldn't have said those words. I might have kept that to myself.
Yeah.
Um,
It just feels like a lot very soon. Mm.
okay. So besides that, it was very sweet of her for getting him the ice cream. He
She's
was
trying.
really he was really excited to see her coming up. Like, it seemed like he seemed excited, to me at least. He
Mhm.
smiled, and then she brought the ice cream, which was his favorite. She's very thoughtful. All right. I don't really have much else, but I do want to get to that conversation at the end.
Let's get to it.
All right. First of all, it was a lot going on. I'm like, is this not a family show? I know it's not. I know it's not a family show, but it has to have some type of a rating. But I like that they were very adult about the conversation that they had. Like, this is what I like. This is how I envision things going down. There wasn't like a discomfort around talking about this thing. Like, I
Mhm.
appreciated how very adult it was because if you're married, you guys need to know these things about each other.
Mhm.
So yeah, even though for a viewer, I'm like, okay, I didn't need to hear all of that. I could appreciate it.
Yeah, it's like when she says like, "Oh, I want it to be organic," and he agreed, I'm like, "Well, y'all are giving a lot of direction for it to be organic." Uh, okay, maybe we see organic as different things, but
I want you
to
to organically follow my instructions. That's what I would like.
literally, that's what I wrote. I'm like, "Girl, you're giving a whole manual of how it's going down. How is that organic?" Okay.
Alright. All right. So it has been about a year and a half for him.
Well, she asked. Let's start with that. So she
No, he said, right?
well
He
well,
was
I
like, oh,
think
it's been some time.
but
For
she asked the question.
how
I just
long?
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, that's all I was saying.
yeah. Okay. So yeah, she asked, and then he
Mhm.
tested a year and a half for him. And
Hmm.
she said, oh, well, it's been far less time for me.
2
I don't know.
months.
2 months. Yeah.
Mm. And then before you answer,
Okay.
uh, he says something to the effect of, "Oh, well, I just value myself. I know my worth."
Hmm. But I thought he said that after the 2 months comment.
He did, he
Okay,
did.
just
I
making
was
sure.
following up. Yeah, yeah. So
Okay, okay.
he says 2 months. He's like, "Oh, well, we just see it differently. We have a different approach. I value myself. I know my self-worth. I don't just
Shade.
accept," you know.
The
So
shade. The shade of it all. I was like, and he's like, because I took this seriously. And she's like, I did too. It was prior to me even knowing that I was engaged. Like, I like that she established that timeline because remember when we first saw the previews, we were like, oh Lord, we hope she ain't do something after
mhm.
she had found out she was engaged and before she met him and all that stuff. So the timeline is clear.
And he tried to trip her up on the timeline. I don't know if you caught it, but
I did
when
not.
he was like, "Oh, well, when as soon as I found out that I was in this
Yeah.
process, I definitely knew I wasn't going to be intimate with someone else," because he was insinuating like, "Oh, 2 months ago, it could have been, after you found out." She's like, "No, no, it wasn't." So he was fishing to trip her up. I
He
caught it.
was. Okay, so on the one hand, like I think it's fair to say his reaction was extreme. Like when he said, well, for me, that removes that off the table, it felt like I'm punishing you for the things that I'm punishing you for not meeting the expectations that I had set for myself. And that's not fair to do to someone who you've just met. If she would have known that was the expectation prior to whenever, that's one thing. But you guys just met. So just because you had this certain expectation for yourself and you met that expectation, that does not mean that you get to put that now on her and make that her responsibility to have met. So
Mhm.
I thought it was very, very unfair for him to make that quick of a shift from, oh, this is, you like to explore, I like to explore, to shut it down, it's not going to happen because before you knew me, you slept with other people. Like,
That and it gives superiority in that it's like, "Oh, well, I value myself." So what are you saying? She
I don't
doesn't
hand
value.
myself out, so I do. Excuse me.
And then you follow it up with, "Oh, well, I'm uncomfortable. It's off the table."
It's so I feel like I don't like people who make impulsive decisions. And okay, I tried to see it from his side. If this thing is just so sacred to you, maybe you want someone who has that same sacred idea of it.
A
But then you don't,
100%. I
yeah,
definitely think it is perfectly fine to seek out
yeah.
compatibility
But when you
with
marry a stranger, you have to understand that there might be some differences, including on that. So
mhm.
that's what
Oh, yeah. He can want what he wants. He can want to be aligned with someone who is on that same vibe. People do that every day. It's not an issue. And in fact, that's a big area to not be aligned in. And so if you were in this mode of celibacy, essentially, and if that was so important, then you probably should have sought out someone outside of this process where you could be very much aligned in that. But to expect that you would marry a stranger and that you would be able to judge them on their intimate behavior before they found out that they were on this show is completely unrealistic.
It's giving judgmental.
So that he thinks he's better than her.
And first of all, it was a year and a half. You are not the Virgin Mary. Relax. Calm down. He said on, oh, sorry.
And I wonder too, you know, because she probed the question first. So also, if this was an area that was really important to you, why didn't you bring it up to her? Also, I think there was a way for him to communicate that there is a difference in their approach, different than what he did. He could have said something like, oh, okay, well, this is how I was operating, leading up to this process. And that's it. I didn't have an issue with him saying, oh, that's an area where we're different.
Yeah.
But the judgy boots, absolutely not.
On the after party, he said he spoke with his sister about it. And Keisha Napoleon was like, oh, what did your sister say? And his sister said, you slut shamed your wife. Point blank, period. I'm like, I knew I loved that sister. Remember we had said we liked her? So, and that's exactly what he did. So it seems like this becomes an issue in the next episode. This episode was a little boring, which I understand it was the day before Thanksgiving. So they didn't want people to miss too much.
Also, with the quickness that he said, oh, sex is off the table. Was it ever on?
Interesting.
Something about his judgmentalness, how he just, I don't know. Is Orion into Lauren, or is this an act? Because even you being like, okay, well, Dad, I need some time to process this. I get you saying that, but just to be like, oh, you can't have me. I don't know that you wanted her to have you. I don't know, Orion.
Interesting.
Even the way he was just so quiet in the guy session.
Oh,
in the comments, y'all tell us, do y'all think that Orion is into Lauren?
And then, no, sorry. I was going to say, oh, well, maybe he's just designed these ideas around it that prevent him from opening up or make him uncomfortable, that she's more, I don't know, fluid, or she's more open about those things than he is. But wasn't this the same man on the bachelor party who was talking about a birth certificate?
It's not adding up. It's I don't know. Orion, it feels like he's fishing for any reason, a reason. It's just, he's too reactionary unnecessarily so early on. To sit in front of your wife and say, oh, well, it takes sex off the table for me. What does that even mean? Indefinitely? For 2 weeks? You're uncomfortable. You're uncomfortable about something that happened before
she even knew you? Well, way before she knew you, but before she even knew that she would get a chance to meet you.
It feels like you're looking for a reason to justify not liking her.
I think, do you feel like the fact that they had that one issue, now he's just like looking for other issues, like he's not fully over it, and so any small thing he's like, oh, red flag, red flag, red flag.
I think that that's definitely it, and I think it's a bit of, I don't know how much he is into her. It feels like it's an act a bit, because she seems very genuine. She's trying.
She is genuine. Yeah.
And so I don't see that reciprocal energy. Like, he's there. He's not saying anything, at least in the group settings, that's alarming. But
If
All
anything,
right.
he's dressing it up like, oh, she's everything that I would have wanted. She's this, she's that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is it an act? Why are you not keeping that same energy in the conversations that matter?
Okay. We shall see. To be
We'll see.
continued. Hopefully next week we don't get another boring episode.
No.
And we'll have more to talk with you guys about. But let us know, especially what you guys feel about the Lauren thing. I can see what he said to an extent
Mhm.
and how he feels to an extent. I think it's unfair to remove it off the table.
Yeah.
We will see you guys next week. Until next time, bye.
Bye.